this thing right here. Now, it probably looks like a really fancy painted drum, and that's partially true. It's what they call an ugly drum smoker, or a UDS. The first thing you want to do when you get a barrel is make sure that it's food grade. If it's not food grade, you can still use it. The main difference is you're going to have to burn it out 2 to 3 times if it isn't food grade. And sometimes they'll have a liner on the inside of them. It'll be red or brown in color, and you have to totally burn out that liner, or else you'll get nasty stuff in your food when you're done. I lucked out. I got 2 food grade drums. The only problem was with mine, now normally they have a locking ring on the top of them, but these were non-returnables, so the ring is rolled over and it doesn't come off. So we had to grind the lid off first. Now the lid, after it's ground off, of course, is going to be usable. But if you happen to go to any garage sales around, you might find some spare Weber kettle parts hanging around. Now in this case, I needed the lid, and I also needed a couple of grates. Now, this one I've actually used quite a few times already. We'll take a look inside here. Now, the first thing, after you burn it out, after you get your lid taken off or found all your parts you're going to need, is you're going to have to drill for air. Now, the standard rule is you use 4 3/4-inch holes, and sometimes people place them all the way around at 90-degree angles to one another. This time I've used 1 inch and gone just 30 degrees off of each. So I've got 3 1-inch holes that were then welded a piece of black pipe, not galvanized. This is black, like you would use for doing gas lines and stuff like that. We go ahead, we weld these in here, and then on 2 of them I just got caps on the ends, and I actually painted some of these. Looks like I missed a spot on that one. And then I put a 1-inch ball valve. Now I used plastic just because it was cheaper, and this one is far enough away from the drum wall where it's not going to be affected by the heat. Plus, the air coming in is going to help cool it down as well. Then, aside from your air intakes, what you need to then do is build a place to hold your racks. Now, spin it around here. In this case, I actually had angle iron welded in. Now, you could just use screws or bolts coming through the sides with a nut that goes down to them and holds them sticking out straight. It's really a cheap and easy way to do it, and it works just as well. I had it welded in just because, well, my father's a welder, or my father-in-law's a welder, and it just looks nicer, you know. So, anyways, plus I didn't have to pay for bolts then, so that's another cost that didn't go in. So first I put a shelf 5 inches down from the top. If you have a resealable lid, you might want to go a little bit lower than that, but since I got the domed Weber lid, 5 inches, I could fit at least a whole turkey right on here. I might even be able to stand the thing up close. I put another shelf in just below it, and to this shelf is where I put my water pan if I want to use it, or a drip pan, or I can even cook stuff on the lower shelf. Just got to remember, it's going to be cooking at a hotter temperature, going to be closer to the fire, more chances of possible burning. Alright, now, that's what you have to do to get your barrel ready, and I've also picked up a grill thermometer from the store. You need is to build what's going to hold your fire inside. And first you have an ashtray. Now, what a lot of people will use is like a pizza pan or something along those lines. I went into the feed section or the animal care section in Farm and Fleet or Fleet Farm, and found this feed dish here. It's just tin, and I got it for $4. something to hold our coal. And this is your fire basket. Now, briefly going over its construction, I had more Weber grates. Left over here. So that's the base for it. Around it is expanded steel, and we already had that on hand, so didn't have to pay for that either. It's welded up. In fact, oh, here's the weld tacks right through here, and then it's welded to the grate. And then this channel, or the channel steel, we actually had that lying around too, so just welded that on. Now, if you don't want to weld, you can do all this on your own. They sell the expanded steel. It's for you can get it for screen doors, stuff like that, and cut it to the height. Now you want to make sure to leave about this much gap, if you can, around the inside of your barrel when you're cutting it, or when you have your fire basket. So cut your expanded steel. You can just use a tin snip usually to do it, and then you can actually curve it around like a propane tank or something like that and bolt it together if you don't want to weld it. Then you can bolt it right to your grate as well, and then you can actually have bolts going from the grate down to your ash pan. You're going to first stock this with charcoal. Now, I recommend using lump charcoal, and mainly because then by using lump, it's not going to generate as much ash in your pan, and you don't have to worry about always having to clean up your barrel. So we're just going to take it like you would the minion method, fill this up. Now my full basket doing the minion method will burn for up to maybe even 18 hours without ever having to touch this. So that's one of the great things about these smokers. They're great at setting and forgetting them. So fill it up, and I got quite a bit to do today. So once this is filled, you would then take your wood chunks, if you're going to smoke with wood chunks, place them in around the edge, and then you would take a charcoal chimney. So you get your coals going, and then once they're all gray and going good, then you would dump them on top of your basket. And what's going to happen is it's just going to slowly burn down and eat that charcoal away. And since it's going from the top down, it goes through it slower, supposedly, than going through the bottom up. And that's what they call the minion method of doing it. So take my barrel over here, set it up on my blocks, my ashtray, and put it in here. Our charcoal basket, and set it in the ashtray, and set it in there. And then I take this one and set it in there. And I get those warmed up, and if I wanted to use a drip pan, I have an old cake pan here that's seen better days, so I use that for my drip pan. And I actually put that in also while everything's getting up to temp. And what you're going to want to do, once you drop your coals on the top for your minion method, you want to make sure your ball valve is open, and if you have these side ports, that they're open also. So that way you get a lot of airflow. Then usually I put a temperature gauge on here also, not just on the side, because the temp will vary from the middle to the side. It's just nice to have a ballpark estimate with the side temperature gauge. So it comes up to temp. Actually, it'll go a little bit over. I'll close up whatever air I need to regulate the temp, and I'll get my food going.